Alright, what you see here is a Evergo Hugger ceiling fan. It's a 42-inch Hugger ceiling fan that I got from Mark Wilson. He gave this fan to me for free when I last visited him, so Mark, if you're watching this, I definitely appreciate it. It's actually a fan he's been meaning to give to me for quite some time. He had 3 of these. One of them he gave away to somebody else already, and he gave this one to me. Now, he had them installed in his basement, or his parents' basement, for a little bit with the light kits that they came with. All 3 of them came with an antique brass single light fitter. Now, I figured I'd take it off and put this little plug in between this. I prefer how these. I figured I'd test it without the light just to see how it looks. I've always seen these mostly without light kits, and I figured if I'm going to test it with a light, maybe get a polished brass single globe fitter for it instead of using the antique brass one, since I figured it would match a lot better. Now, this fan is from February of 1985, so from my knowledge that I can recall, I think this is actually the oldest Hugger ceiling fan I have in my collection. Because one of the other older ones I have is that Dynasty Hugger, which is from 1988. And I don't think I have any other Hugger ceiling fans that predate that. There's a beefy switch housing. I'm not sure if the 52-inch ones use the same size motor or not. I definitely would like to get one at some point, but it's not a big priority. But it is definitely a cool fan regardless. Has the same type of switch cap that you see like on a Casablanca from this era and going into the 90s. In fact, this thing in the center is actually from one of my Casablanca fans, so I've seen that they actually use the same exact switch cap cover as the Casablancas do, so I figured I might as well just steal it from one of them. Now, the fan has somewhat yellowed blades. I'm not sure if this fan was installed in the kitchen or not, but I think it's more so due to the age. And the rubber stuff on it has worn out, so yeah. And the fan does make some noise. Though if the blades on it, it makes a lot less noise, which I'm glad, because this thing, when you just spun it by hand without the blades on it, it made a ton of noise. And here's the tag that you see on Evergo fans. Yeah. The fan does have an extra red wire in it. That way, if you wanted to hardwire it, you could. That was something that was a lot more common back in the 80s and such. But obviously, for my testing purposes, I don't need it like that. So, yeah, let me go ahead and start off on the low speed. Yes, that is the fan. That's not a motorcycle driving outside. I did put some oil in it. Didn't really do too much. I honestly didn't want to overdo it by putting too much oil in it. Honestly, with the bearings the way they are, it doesn't seem like that oil would cause it to be any quieter. The bearings definitely seem to be shot. But it's a lot quieter than I was expecting it to be, considering how noisy it was when I spun it by hand. And when I ran it without the blades, it was a lot louder. But it really isn't bad compared to how loud it was without the blades on it. This is actually my first Evergo ceiling fan in my collection. Definitely would like to get some more. It's not too many of them that I know of. I know there's the Evergo spinner, which is basically a relabeled Union spinner. I'd like to get. There's like a GE vent one that they have. That's the same type like the ones I see in the Dominican Republic at the cigar shop. That's an antique brass I'd love to get as well. Definitely wouldn't mind getting a few of the spinners from Evergo. Definitely a fan I can see like in a laundry mat or something like that, dry cleaners, kitchen, an old restaurant, old hardware store of sorts, an old bank, bedroom, living room. A lot of vintage like looking places and such. I am feeling a decent breeze from it on the low speed though, to be honest. Quite more than I was expecting. Alright, now for medium. Yeah, like just the sound it's making, I can tell that if I put a full bottle of oil, motor oil in it, that it wouldn't make it any more quiet. I've had some other fans that are even noisier than this that make a similar sound, and I've put a ton of oil in them, and they still make a disbearing sound. But it was for free, so I'm not complaining. Plus, I have been wanting to try out one of these for a while, anyways, and from what it seems, the speed performance isn't really being affected by it. I'm feeling a pretty decent breeze from it over here on medium, despite it being a small fan. It doesn't like the Blaze fan, but it does have a pretty decent sized motor for a fan of its size. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and move it up to the high speed. Gotta say, it is pushing a decent breeze for a fan of its size, and it is extremely hot down here today. It's like almost in the 90s in this basement, so I should have tested something a little bit more powerful, but I figured since this would have been a very quick fan to test, I figured I might as well just do this one to get it out of the way. For the rest of the week, it's going to be extremely hot. I figure maybe at least get a residential fan or two squeezed in. Honestly, like if it wasn't for the bearings, I honestly wouldn't mind using this for like a shop fan. But because of the bearings, I probably wouldn't even install this anywhere. Unless I was get the bearings to quiet down quite a bit, and that's a different story. But with the way they are, I wouldn't install this anywhere. And it sucks because the performance is actually pretty good on this fan for a fan of its size. Yeah, even if I hold it, it still makes a lot of noise. Like, I know this fan is humming. It's not even the humming that would drive me crazy. It's the motor sound that's making the bearings. Let me shut off a new spin down. Then I'll go ahead and show it on reverse. I'm not sure if it's supposed to go faster than this. It probably should, because from what I've seen in other videos, the smaller ones, they seem to go a bit faster, but with the bearings being shot on this one, I'm really not that surprised that it seems to be going a tiny bit slower. I think it's on Vintage Fans TV that has, when they tested a few years ago, or quite a few years ago now at this point, I remember his went pretty fast. Could even be the capacitor on this one, I'm not too sure, but it's my first time testing one and seeing one in person running on a high speed, so it's definitely different when you see it on camera compared to in person. Alright, if you come to a complete stop, it's a pretty quick spin down. I mean, the motor doesn't seem stiff at all. I think it's just it might just be the capacitor, I'm not sure, but who knows. Alright, here it is on low reverse. But it does perform well, without a question. Like, it outperforms the low profile, like the 90s 42-inch version, to be more specific. I haven't tested an 80s version, so I can't say if it's stronger than that. At the same time, I haven't tested a whole lot of 42-inch huggers, so, like, down here, so, I mean, it outperforms a Littleton without a question. It's no given. I'd say, like, compared to the Evergo one, I wouldn't say that it's less powerful than it, because it has been a little while since I've tested that one. At the same time, this one seems to not be going at the full capacity, so I don't want to judge it off of this. But at the same time, it is pretty humid down here today, so I feel like that's the other thing. And the Littleton that Evergo Littleton I tested was brand new out of the box, and it was flying on a high speed, so it's not really a fair comparison. If this was brand new out of the box and such, that's a different story. I mean, it definitely it does not outperform a Lady Delta, that's without a question. See, on camera it looks like it's going a lot faster, but in person it's not going as fast as it appears on camera. But it is pushing a good breeze even on reverse. Oh my goodness, the sound is just unbearable. Probably would need some bearings to be replaced, but I honestly don't know if this motor's really worth breaking open to do that. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.